Yeah.
Is there a difference between disagreeing and arguing or rebelling?
No.
You can disagree with something, doesn't mean you do something about it.
It's like saying, oh, I don't like Obamacare. I'm not going to overthrow the government.
It doesn't mean that you approve.
So he's disagreeing with it, but
She disagreed with it, but she didn't say, no, I'm not going to marry him.
Probably because she couldn't. If she did, what made a difference?
Same case with me overthrowing the government. I wouldn't have made a difference by myself. She went to the court of law. I would need an army to overthrow the government.
If you think about it, she did her divorce basically on her own. She didn't have anybody
sister
else.
died.
she had a lawyer and all
Had a
those
lawyer
judges.
who got the feminist movement.
Yeah. I think we're kind of already moving into the second question too, a little bit.
Second question was analyze the cause and measures success in attaining a divorce. So I think we're kind of transitioning into that now with the whole, she had the lawyers by her side and
Kind of
well,
made
the
everyone
lawyer,
like feel
the one
bad for her.
that we know of, and also all the feminist groups and all the women's rights activists that her lawyer got for her.
Well, if somebody else had done her before, then nobody would have helped her. It's just because she was the first person to do it.
I don't think anything would have happened without the help of the newspapers and media, because no one would have known about it, no one would have supported it. But the media made it a big deal, and that helped her out, I think, probably one of the most. That and shot it.
I agree, because without getting the word out, it wouldn't have made a big difference and everything would just go back to what it normally is. But if something's a big problem and it gets publicity, then it kind of sways it to what's morally right than what is tradition.
I also think if the judges didn't feel bad for her, that it wouldn't have gotten very far.
Yeah. I could have just said no like right away.
Anything else?
I agree with Hannah
Because
On boyfriend.
because it's a good thought.
Because in the text when she went to the courthouse and talked to the judge, she was surprised and he was like, "You're married?" So he felt that.
She's a little young for that. Even in a very extreme society that has these norms, people will still feel that it's wrong and feel the need to help her.
Yeah.
We keep talking about things outside of Nashoot herself that caused success. What kind of things that were actually in Nashoot herself caused her to do this? I can, for one, say that her courage really helped. What do you think, Tanner?
Yeah. Well, I guess it probably would be desperation as well. No one would want to live that life.
Yeah.
Courage from desperation.
I think she was one of the most courageous women there. Because I bet a lot of other women wanted to get a divorce but didn't have the courage to.
Also, like after she had already gone there, a bunch of people were saying, no, this was a bad idea, why are you doing this? But she ignored them because she knew what she's getting into, to a point anyway.
I think it was more of her misery that pushed her to do it more than anything.
Yeah.
what could you tell, what could you tell was the attitude of the Yemeni students yesterday about the whole issue of child marriage?
They didn't want us to think it was that big of an issue anymore.
And they thought we thought that everyone was like that.
They kind of thought like the book portrayed it in a different way than it really is.
Then again, wasn't it like 6-7 years ago?
In 2008 and 2009.
5 or 6 years ago. Since that book was published, a lot of things have been changing. So it may be changing now for better or worse. I don't know how it went yesterday. So
I believe the way they said things were changing were they were giving more rights for women in Yemen.
And what did they say was one of the reasons for that? A couple of them mentioned. I think it was the gentleman who said the father is wrong. He didn't treat her well, but we don't believe that anymore. We are people who are, remember what he mentioned?
I don't remember.
Educated.
education.
Should we move on to the next question?
Yeah.
Analyze the obstacles for foreseeing the Jews attaining success in the future.
The extreme conservative people of her society could protest her success by threatening her as she lives throughout the rest of her life by breaking a norm in their society.
I think her main difficulty will probably be the fact that nobody's going to want to marry her again. Like, when she gets old enough and decides she wants to marry somebody, they're not going to want to marry somebody that got a divorce. Especially at the age she did and the way she did.
That's good.
I thought that just because she's a special case of divorce in Yemen doesn't mean that she'll get any special attention in the future. Like, it can, but it doesn't mean they will. For example, if she wants to go into some kind of career besides a lawyer, or maybe even like if she wanted to be a lawyer and she wanted clients that were male, the males would not accept her in her society. So it might actually end up hurting her in the long run rather than helping her.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Also, I think that even though women are gaining more rights in the Middle Eastern countries, that depending on where she goes, it may be a little harder for her to get a job in whatever career, because women's rights are still not as progressive as they are here, and even here they're not as progressive as what we need them to be.
Colin, do you have anything to say on the matter?
No.
What about you, Garrett?
Yeah.
Chris?
No.
Leah?
Anyone else?
I think it'll change, like, the tradition of her family. Like, her kids aren't going to be able to get married young like everybody else, and, like, the father, her future husband, might disagree with that.
Wouldn't it be harder for her to get married? Don't they like look for virgins? And since she's not, that wouldn't really mean that she's as wanted as she was before.
Plus, they're looking at 10-year-olds and she'll be older than that.
If you think about what the Yemeni students were projecting as a perspective, as an attitude, do you think anyone with that type of progressive attitude might be willing to or apt to value someone like Nishu?
I don't know.
Because
Well, because like Elise said, they're like looking for version stuff.
And she's
It's
too
really not,
outspoken.
Let's move on to the last question.
Analyze the choices of Najud and Delphine. What? Manui in the structure of her story.
It took a lot of courage by both of them to do that, 'cause it was like the first time it's ever been done there.
I think she actually aimed this book more towards the first world countries rather than because a lot of the men there would be really angry to even hear about the book that were like against women's rights and especially like the Taliban and stuff like that in the Middle East.
It's written in the way of figurative language and imagery to invoke feelings of emotional severity and empathy and sympathy towards Jude and give you an idea of what it's like to live there in her position.
Yep, I agree with that.
She wrote it for us to like raise awareness.
The way the story was just written in general makes you have to picture the scene out as it is, which will make you think more, and it makes your brain think more on this topic about the whole women's rights and what's right and what's wrong, what's morally right and wrong, not traditionally right and wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That goes by your opinion. To them, they think that is morally right.
That's a good answer, Seth.
But because of that language that hooks more into emotions, is our emotions more hooked to humanity in general than to a culture?
Maybe.
Final thoughts?
It was a good story.
I feel like it gives other people like her age that might be in the same situation an idea or like hope that it might get better or they can make it better for themselves.
Yeah.
In the long run.
And she did do that already, we know, for a number of people.
I wasn't there yesterday, but weren't the Yemeni students talking about it really isn't that bad in their society or something like that?
Right, they
So-
made a big point of implying that not everything is like this, that that's old school.
So-
But they in a way might be somewhat blinded to